Hey guys, it's Tony. Welcome to my shop. Today I'm going to be doing William Kenny's project, his multi-axis box. I've made a couple of attempts at it. Some of them turned out. I was working on a 4-axis version, and if you don't get it just right, you can come up with a really cool geometric shape that'll make a cool box, but it's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to get a spiral. So the whole trick is really labeling your stuff right and making it clear, so you know exactly where your in my case, I'm doing a 4-axis spin, so mine's gonna have a 4-way twist. The one that William did, he did a 3-way twist. I wanted to just add a little spin on it, and I did speak to him and make sure it was cool with him for me to kind of copy what he was doing, because it's such a cool project. I wanted everyone to give it a shot. If you haven't already seen his video on the 3-axis box, go watch that first. It really makes it real clear what I'm gonna do here with a 4-axis. So you have to label both sides concentrically. So 1 and 1 have to be in the same spot. Number 4 and number 4 have to be in the same spot, so that when we mount these in our axes, we're going to get the perfect spin on it. I made a little cheat sheet, which is about as legible as a doctor's scribble here, but you can see the pattern. If you want to pause it or screenshot that, here's the pattern you need for a 3-axis. You get your tailstock and headstock, and then for a 4-axis swing, here's your tailstock and headstock positions for each of the turning steps we're going to take. So I'm going to jump right to it. This is a piece of apple. I didn't bother filming, hey, here's how you turn something around. There are some other videos up there on how to properly use a rough and gouge and stuff like that, some safety tips and stuff. But let's just jump to it and see what we come up with. So for my turn, and pardon the Miles Davis in the background, I'm going to use just this overhead view. I think it gives you the best shot. But you're going to see we're going to start on number 1 here and number 2 on the other side for our first part of this turn. So first we start with our small prong center. We go into number 1, and over here we're going to go into number 2. And now we're just going to lock those down nice and tight, do all the smart stuff about turning, stay out of the line of fire, start your speed down at nothing, spin it up, make sure you don't have anything too crazy. This is dry apple. I should be able to spin it at 1200 RPM without a single vibration, even though it's way out of balance. Yeah, we're at 1250 RPM, shouldn't have any issues. Secret is we don't want to take too much wood down. So what Mr. Kenny did, and I don't know him well enough to call him Will, so I'm going to call him Mr. Kenny for now, is he took his all the way down to his tenons on both ends. So I'm going to take mine down to the outside edge of the furthest part of the tenon. When I start knowing I'm clicking there, and then we'll get a flat across there, and that will give us the look we want. I think I'm just going to nick that, or am I not? Oh, we're good. I'm going to back it up just a hair, just to make me feel a little more comfortable here. There we go. So I'm coming at this with a sharp 1-inch rough and gouge. This is an old Mifer from Spain, chrome vanadium. It's not even high-speed steel. This was my first set of turning tools, professional tools that I got back in 1994, I believe it was. Before that, I was using a set of Harbor Freight chisels. Didn't have anything but scrapers and skews. So let's do it. We'll put our face shield on. We blow out the chisel. There we go. Standard anchor, find your bevel, thumb on top, finger to give us our depth. You're not a little aggressive right there, I don't know why. So what I do when I can feel at one distance, I'll turn that off so you can hear me here. What I do is when I can feel it with one distance from my tool rest, making contact all the way across the piece, it should help us develop this first part of our spiral. All right, now we're not down all the way to these yet, so I'm gonna take another pass. I don't wanna have to reset it up again. And you can already see I've taken off my number 3 has been removed from here, and there's, I think my number 4 has been removed. So I wrote them on here so I could lay everything out properly, but they're still written on the ends. But so you can kind of see the orientation of where things are going. And that's our first spiral. But I'm gonna go ahead and take it down to almost to the tenon here, so we get a uniformity. down on it. I feel like I could go a little bit more this direction. Stop. We really don't want to have to go back and rechuck it. So if we don't get our turn pretty uniform going here, and we looks pretty nice. We got little tool marks here. We'll hand sand that with the grain to keep our sharp edge here. And these should start to overlap so it all swirls together if I do everything right. So we started again on number 1 and number 2 on this end. So on this end now we're going to go to number 2. So we'll just go ahead and back our tailstock off. Move this out of there, move to our number 2 hole, and then on the other hole, we're going to want to be on number 3. So we'll come over to our number 3 hole, with our little marks that we set out in at the end there. And if you've watched Williams, I'm not going to go through that entire process. I kind of showed you what mine looked like. He lays it all out. There's no reason for me to duplicate all that hard work and effort he put in there. I just want to show you how you can take that same concept and make yourself a 4-axis version. I want to make sure we're lined up nice. Sorry, I keep hitting the thing with my helmet. All right, now we're going to do the exact same thing we just did. All right. Boom, 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 boom. So now we have 2 swirls. We got our first one here. It's our first spiral and our second spiral. And we've almost matched up here. See how we're not quite matched perfectly in here? So I'm going to take this one down a teeny bit more. Probably needed to take this one down a bit more, but we don't want that diamond. We want our 2 spirals to match. Nice and uniform in there. So I'm going to go ahead and take another pass until we're into that space there. See, do we get a nice match here? Yep, that lines up pretty good. Okay, so we got our 1 spiral, 2 spirals. So now we're ready for our 3rd. See how we're coming right down to that's really making the difference. We want to get down to that diameter. A little bit of a hump right there, but I think I will work on sanding that out rather than taking to the pass. I don't want to go too far down. So now we're going to move. On this end, we're in number 2, so we're going to move to number 3 now on the other end. And 3 matches up with 4. So headstock is going to be on number 3. We'll get over there and spin it so we can still see our numbers. And on this end, we'll be on number 4 on our tailstock end. Headstock 3, tailstock 4. And again, I have already put holes in with an awl to mark everything off and nice and tight. And we're going to true up this tenon when it's centered in again so we can still mount it in a chuck to drill our hole, carve out our box, put a rebate in for our lid. But now again, just like we did on the last one, we'll do the same thing, bring it down to the tenon so we get a nice tight connection between our spirals. So I was just thinking, I'll be real transparent with you guys. I sound like a politician, but this is my 3rd attempt to get this just right. My first attempt turned out beautiful, but it was not right. It was a cool geometric shape, but I misaligned these. I didn't have them marked right, misunderstood how to mark them. So I had, I went 1, 2, 3, 4 clockwise, 1, 2, 3, 4 clockwise. So I wasn't set up right. They have to be straight across. Your 3's here, your 3's here. So when you flip them back and forth, they're identical. That's a little rough in there. I'd like to have a little cleaner cut. And I don't feel like I could get a skew in there. But this apple will sand real easy. I'll still take 1 super light pass, just a super light pass to see if we can get that out of there. Take a little of the pressure off of the sanding later because we don't want to lose these nice tight lines between our spirals. We want to keep that crisp ridge. And that crisp ridge, and this nice crisp ridge. That's what we want to keep. So we only have 1 more left before the actual multi-axis portion's over. So now we're going to go out to number 4 on our headstock end. And again, we have them all marked out here. So number 4, last one without any holes in it. And on this end, we're going to go into number 1, which at the last one, if you get them all right up to this point, you're pretty good because none of them will already been pierced. If you have to go back again though, boy, you better have had it marked out well, or you are going to create something funky looking like this thing. So, and no one wants that. So with this apple, a beautiful wood to turn. If you can get a dry piece of apple with no cracks in it, and this has got a little, what do you call it, a little knot hole in it or something, it's going to still be really pretty. But this is our last one, so we're going to go ahead and clean out this spot here. It should end up grooving it, and then we'll do some quick hand sanding before we true up our tenons, flip it around, and drill out our center for our box portion. It felt pretty good. I went nice and slow to try to keep my cuts clean. Crisp. Not quite crisp period, so I think I can take one more pass. Pretty crisp, pretty crisp, pretty crisp. And right now we are hitting this one right here. So this is the one we're hitting. So we have a crisp line there and a crisp line there. So where we don't have our crisp line is right there, which is going to require, we're hitting this one too. We're hitting this one too. So I'm going to go ahead and take another pass there so we can tighten that up, get a little crisper line. Now if you're doing that right, you're using your body, holding this down, setting your depth of your finger and your thumb, holding it down, sliding across your tool rest with your body motion, not using your arms or shoulders. Flat, 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 little off here. And of course, right here where we're a little off, that's the spot where we don't have a perfectly crisp line. So the only thing to do is either go, okay, we're gonna sand that out, which I think I'm going to do. I don't wanna risk messing up my orientation, but I think it was the first ones we did, which was number 1 and number 2. So just for the sake of showing a recovery, to make sure we get a nice crisp line, I'm gonna try to go back. This could be terrible or it could be awesome. Again, we're gonna come back over and find number 1, clearly marked. Try to line it back up in our chuck the exact same, or our prong the same way. And over here we want number 2, which we have clearly marked right here. So that should allow us to tighten up this one right here. See how that's coming in? That's where our diamond is not tight, is that one right there. So let's see if we can tighten it up so we have nice crisp lines. The way this grain goes, it's gonna swerve around and just be beautiful. All right, let's make Mr. McKinney proud. And I think that did it. I may be wrong, but hopefully I'm right. Crisp, 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 crisp. Look at that. Okay, so we have our shape. I'm not going to bore you with my sanding, but the basics of it's going to be abranet going with the grain, keeping my tights, my lines nice and tight. I don't want to soften these. And then I'll move over to the next side. I'm only going to sand this, it's apple, so I'll only sand it to 240 before we get out. And then when we buff it out, if we get all the lines down at 240, this stuff looks beautiful. Going any higher than that, you don't really get a return on your investment for all that extra sanding. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that first and off camera, and then we'll come back when I'm ready to true up these tenons. Okay, got it sanded down just to 240, like I said, that's all I'm gonna do. Before I true up the tenon, or actually I'll true up the tenon first, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put on the some Howard's wax and feed on this one. I think that would be a pretty complement to this, and we can always buff it out on the wheel later. So I've just moved it back to its original centers. That's where we need to be right now. And we're gonna peel down, you know, both sides look great. I think I want this feature here at the bottom. I think I want it at the top. So this is gonna be our bottom on this side. But let's go ahead and throw a little Howard's on here with a towel, just because it's so pretty to watch something just soak up the goo, the good stuff. So again, this is just Howard's wax and feed. And if you're turning and watching me, I'm sure you've probably used it before. This is one of my favorites. Soaks into these open pore woods really well and gives just a nice luster. I don't really worry about a cure on this right now. It's just kind of protecting the wood that we just finished sanding. And again, this is only to 240. This is like the same way I would sand a spatula or like a really utility piece for a kitchen or something like that. Just if you over sanding apple, it'll take all these crisp edges out from our spiral. And we've spent all this effort trying to replicate that. Oh, there's some pretty chatoyancy there around where that knot was, huh? That's pretty. So again, I'm not gonna put any fancy wax coat or anything on this until much later. But now we've got it between centers. We can take our skew, nice sharp skew, and we're just gonna peel on both of these ends. I'm gonna peel away this end over here down to a smaller nub and establish a thicker tenon on this end. Right now, our piece overall length is 5 inches. I can get in with my Forstner bit about 4 inches, and if I go 3.5. So put our tenon here, we'll leave a little bit of weight in the bottom. So I'm just gonna peel that back to where we are right now, and then clean off that top in this first maneuver here. Oh, get on that face shield. So now we're ready to mount this into some chucks. I got a nice dovetail there. Clean up this top. Oh, actually clean nice, just a little tore out grain going the other direction, so that's good. Smooth as a baby. It's a baby smooth spot. I don't even allowed to say anymore. When I was a kid, that was just a normal way of saying smooth. But now see our beautiful twist. We'll go ahead and put this in them. Don't like the grain there, but we'll sand that up when we clean the bottom off. So now we're gonna just put this into a chuck, get it nice and locked in. We'll use our center to make sure everything's concentric. And then we're gonna go ahead and take off this nub, flatten this up, and then we're gonna drill in with a Forstner bit down the center for our round hole. And then with a box scraper, we'll make a lip for a lid, and then we'll turn the lid separately. And I'll probably make the lid out of a contrasting wood. This is so neutral. I can go, real dark or real light, and either way it'll look pretty. So that's where we're gonna stop this phase. Once I bring you back, once we have it set up on the chuck. All right, I've got you set up for drilling. I'm gonna go ahead and swap out my live center for my Jacobs chuck, and we'll measure across that width there and find out a nice distance for the size of our Forstner for this one. So what I'm thinking is 50 millimeters is 2 inches roughly, and 45 to bring us in a bit and leave us room for a nice rebate. 50 might be a little too close, but I think this is our narrowest spot. Drilling at 50 could risk it not to give us a lot of room for a rebate for our lid. So I'm going to go ahead and go with a 45 millimeter is what I'm going to go for, which is about 1 3/4 inches roughly, a little more than 1 3/4 inches. Again, it's not like we have a ton of stuff we plan on storing in here. It might make a cute little tobacco, like pipe tobacco humidor for your desk or something like that. But the reality is it's just a pretty decorative unit. When I was looking into this style of design, it really reminds me of some mid-century modern stuff that I'm quite fond of. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is technically a mid-century modern type of look. I really like the 3-spiral that Mr. Kenny did, and I'm hoping I'll do one of those next, but I kind of wanted to have my own spin. Now, why in the world would that not fit in there? He asked. Did somebody monkey with my Jacobs chuck? Oh, let's see. I have an extra key up here. Clearly this is the right key. I wonder where that came from. Says the guy who can't remember what he had for lunch. Okay. So, I like to get my quill set exactly at 1 inch so I know how deep I'm drilling. Let's go ahead and give ourselves an idea too. So from the point to here it's 100 millimeters, 4 inches roughly. So if we went all the way to the end of there, we'd go too deep. So we're gonna wanna go 3 3/4 inches. That's the maximum depth that we can go comfortably. So I'm gonna go 3.5 inches to leave myself a little wiggle room. So I've got the quill set at 1 inch. I get this close, but not all the way. So I don't want it to spin up touching. And then I'm gonna go ahead and make sure that my quill is set nicely, back it off to my 1 inch again. We're gonna drill at about 300 RPM, 280 to 300 for a Forstner bit at this size. We have a nice tight tenon. So we're at 275 right now. Remove your tool rest if you can, because right now, say if this twisted, I would have pulled my wrist right down into it, and it may want to twist. So nice, gentle, just drop in easy. Came right into that end grain perfectly. Just turn on the dust collector. Cranking myself back to the 1 inch mark. I went all the way to 2.5, so really I have 1 more inch to go. So that's 1 inch right there. But it needs to be 1 inch and touching the bottom. So that should give us our depth. Go ahead and grab a depth gauge real quick so we can verify that. Again, I have very few like really crazy expensive tools. Almost all my tools are inexpensive kits, secondhand stuff like that. This is a depth gauge you can get at Harbor Freight in a kit of measuring tools. So we're right now at 85 millimeters, just a little under 3.5 inches. So I could go another 1/8 of an inch deep, but right now I could still reach the bottom. So that puts us, really close to as deep as we'd want to be. Anyway, looks good. It's sandable. So that would be our next step. So we'll take out our Forstner bit, put that away because these are sharp and I don't like banging myself on them. I will sand the inside of that after matter of fact, I'm gonna wait to turn off the camera for you guys until I've got out the box scraper, and we'll go ahead and put our rebate in that so we'll know what material to use for our top. Now I really liked the way Mr. Kenny sunk his top in quite a bit and then put a nice finial on it. I used a little knob on my first one, slight dome in it, but recessed it back in quite a ways and really liked the aesthetic. In my opinion, it was very mid-century modern kind of vibe, which is one that I do like to produce. I do a lot of vases in that format. Never done anything multi-axis until this week after seeing his amazing videos. So, and that's why we watch videos, right? It's why I go on YouTube and watch other turners. It's why I watch Thomas Slav, and why I watch Brad Bond, Kerry Corney. These guys, they're showing you not only good techniques and giving you some basic skill builders, but they're giving you ideas. You're giving us, hey, this is a fun project. Give this one a shot. And that's something that's very different about our art for the most part. There are a few turners out there who, hey, wait a minute, that's mine. You don't make that. And there's other guys who are like, yeah, come on, make it. Here's a hashtag. Get out and do it. Let's see what you come up with. And that I really appreciate. Little cheap carbide square end. I could get out a box scraper, but I think this will do just fine. Now I'm just going to go in about a little over 1/8 of an inch. That should be deep enough for our lid to sit in. So now I'm going to go ahead and go off camera and sand this up. Inside of this, basically start at 80 grit with some 3M regular sandpaper. Get in there good. Again, people don't see this often, but all the tool marks and stuff from the sanding and the little vibrations. See, I'm a little loose in there right now, which is a surprise. But that's probably why we got more marks from the Forstner than we should have. That was really in there tight earlier. So we'll get in and we'll sand that with the grain first, and then I'll spin it up, sand inside, just until we get it smooth looking. And then I'll zap that with a little boiled linseed oil maybe. Nope, if I want to use this for pipe tobacco, I'll use cutting board conditioner. So it just soaks right into the oil and protects protects it, keeps it kind of more moisture tight. Now we'll sand this top off nice and flat, and we'll pull it off here. And someone's got their Harley out already. Is it that time of year? Jeez, I guess it's 44 degrees. Yeah, you can get out there and ride your bikes. So we'll flip this around, jam chuck it, take the bottom off, and then we'll be able to just press fit so we get a nice tight fit for our lid up here when we're doing that. So that'll be our next step. All right, I'll bring it. We're set up here with a little bit of a jam chuck. I don't want to push too hard on it, but we're going to go ahead and just peel off this bottom, give us a nice flat spot there before we go ahead and make our top. And I still haven't decided what material to use for the top. I have lots of little offcuts out here. I have this really pretty, you can tell it's going to be a rippled maple there, a little spalt in it that's thick enough, if I mount it right, that could end up being kind of pretty, but I don't know. I just we'll have to figure out exactly what you're going to use here. But first we're just going to peel off this bottom. We'll use a regular 1/2 inch bowl gouge. Little pointy guy. We'll sand that up down there, nice and easy. Just use a power sander and boop, boop, that'll be cleaned right up. But I don't want to do that while it's on the lathe because it won't be concentric. We're barely held on there at all. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little Howard's in here on the inside. Again, we sanded that to 240. Just dribble some in there, let it do its thing. The end grain is going to soak up a lot of it. Apple's got a really cool end grain. If you get a chance to see it, it's going to be hard to take a picture of. I might be able to get one for Instagram or something. But the end grain in apple kind of gets this star spiderweb kind of pattern. So I'll just let some Howard soak into that. Get it up here on the other side. And this wood is so dry, you can feel it just drinking it up. So let's get all of the pores filled with that. Let that cure up while we get ready to decide on what top to do. Now, making a top, I'm going to just do a separate video for that, and I'll go ahead and show it at the end, because I mean, you guys can see that it takes a little bit more time than I think this video merits. I just wanted to show you how to do a 4-axis or twist box like this. And again, never done this before. That's how good a teacher William Kenny is. You watch his video, you can come up with your own designs based on the way he teaches you, and a nice little twist. So all right, I'll pop up for the wrap up, and ta-da! We have our multi-axis little four twist box based off of William Kenny's awesome video. I added my own little twist, and it's a pop. So we got a little pop lid on here. I textured it. You see that? Yeah, put a little texture in there, a couple of detail lines, just a little elm offcut scrap, the crunch fit, so it fits nice and tight. I was thinking of using it as a little mini desk humidor or something like that, so I finished it with an organic wax inside. We'll let that sit up, get nice and cured before it's ready to go. But all in all, this is a great project. Highly recommend you give it a shot. Make sure to watch William Kenny's video first, because you'll see all the stuff that I probably didn't explain perfectly. But the only difference between mine and his is I went with 4 axes and he did a 3. So he made a cool triangle box, and mine ends up being a more of a square, oblong, mid-century modern looking thing. So the wood's apple and elm. Great project. Really, really encourage you to give it a try. Leave me a comment. Let me know if you thought this is a fun project or what you would have done differently. And it really helps my channel grow if you share it and give it the likes and all that other fun YouTube stuff. So get out there and turn something.